Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Today, we're going to talk about getting more from our Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP file systems. And how we're going to do it, we're going to do it with NetApp Workload Factory. And until other people join the session, we'll start by very quick introductions. My name is Danny Zidoni. I'm a product specialist here at NetApp. And today, I am very fortunate to be joined by Iska Levy-Silas. Iska, how are you today?
Good, thank you. Thanks, Danny, for inviting me. Always happy to be here.
Always happy to have you and talk to you about storage workloads. Nothing more exciting than that. And with that, let's start the presentation. So our star of the evening is FSx for ONTAP, which is first and foremost, a first-party storage service in AWS. It's an intelligent storage service for AWS workloads. If it is an AWS storage service, why do we at NetApp talk about it? Well, very simply, because under the bonnet, there's NetApp ONTAP technology. And that means that you get a comprehensive set of features that range from optimal cost performance, resilience, accessibility, and many more. They come in different pillars, from accessibility on multiple protocols, resilience and protection, making sure that our data is available and can withstand disasters, data security features from industry standards to some aces up our sleeves, like a built-in autonomous ransomware protection, with a flexibility and elasticity compatible with the cloud, where we can basically mold our FSx for ONTAP file system to our workload if we want to be economical, or if we wanted to service high performance computing workloads as well. And last but not least, the ability to move our data mobility and copies, the ability to migrate to the cloud from ONTAP, from on-premise ONTAP machines, for example, making sure that we can easily clone, and so on and so forth. Now that we've introduced ourselves and introduced FSx for ONTAP, for those who not necessarily remember, we'd like to know a little bit about you and about your knowledge. So what a better way than a poll? Send it away, Liat.
So we're asking today how familiar you are with the AWS well-architected framework. I wonder, Danny, what do you think we're going to see here in the results?
Yeah, so typically from past experience, our audience is well versed in those matters. I believe that at least the majority are either heard of it, or even a large minority are well versed in it. I do expect we will have some people who are not necessarily familiar with it, maybe not as a concept, but I'm sure they learned about it, if not from the hard way, but definitely by working their fingers and creating applications in AWS. They definitely have some grasp of it.
Yeah. So let's see our results.
Do we have them? Yes, we do. So as expected,
you called it.
Yeah, we have a very strong majority of people who are either well versed in it, heard of it, and a small minority who are not familiar with it. But I think it will be very easy to get the picture. Okay, and let's continue. So a quick reminder, what is the AWS well-architected framework? So essentially the idea was you're building whatever you build in AWS, you have some 6 pillars that you need to keep in mind when building workloads correctly. And that's, of course, cost optimization. We don't want to, no matter what we do, we don't want to overspend our budget. We want to be efficient with our performance. We want to make sure that we keep operational excellence. We must be in a world full of threats. We must be secured. And in a world full of accidents, geopolitics, etc., we also must be reliable and think about disaster that not might come, but when they will come. So we need to be ready with that. And because we all have these concepts in the back of our head, AWS put it in a framework for us to understand. And these can be roughly divided. We can choose and configure resources to deliver our optimal cost performance, to spin a few knobs and make sure that we are our performance is efficient, that we don't overspend, meaning that our cost is optimized. And we also need to apply mechanism to keep ourselves security, reliable, and to operate, to excel in the way we operate our workloads, which also saves human hours, saves times, tears, etc. How does this all come together? And how do we implement it? So essentially, the idea is that AWS give us our well-architected building blocks. That's the resources, those Lego bricks, if you will, that you have in the different services in AWS. And on the other hand, we sort of have to, when we build on top of them, we need to make sure that they are orchestrated and work harmoniously together. And that's where well-architected orchestrations come in. We need infrastructure as code to automate processes and how resources are used, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And if we have a look here at this slide, I think once upon a time, 1 second before we introduce that, I think if you look at these two sort of pillars of resources and capabilities, and then on the other hand, workflows and processes, I think once upon a time, years ago, not that many years ago, you'd have to have very smart and expert individuals in your organization who are very well versed with the entire solutions, with all the solutions to offer, to be able to choose the correct resources and to be able to leverage the correct capabilities. And then those individuals would have to spend hours and hours putting the workflows and processes in place. And time is translated into money, and we all want to make a better use of our time and save our money, and get that orchestration as optimized as possible, which is a great transition to NetApp Workload Factory. NetApp Workload Factory is a complementary automation and optimization service that helps our customers implement that well-architected dashboard, that well-architected framework that you explained about. Now, it's great to have that sort of comprehensive guideline, but we know from a lot of our customers that the hard part is putting it in place. Right? The hard part is making sure you're up to date, right? It's nice to have those guidelines saying, okay, let's be cost optimized, let's have good performance, sustainability, reliability, but how do you translate them into those configurations, into, those little bits and pieces? So that's what Workload Factory comes to help you do. It takes you through the entire life cycle of your workloads in FSx for ONTAP, through the planning, the provisioning, and the operation stage. Important to mention, it is...
Well, I think there are two things that are worth mentioning. So first of all it was developed by people in NetApp who are either experts in in ONTAP, in the very gut of the FSx for ONTAP and the ONTAP operating system itself, meaning how to really get the best of it, and by people who have been working with AWS for a long time and how to work with other services and combine the two. And another thing that I wanted to ask you is I think explained very nicely in a very short way. What is Workload Factory? And I have another question. How much do we need to pay for it? $100 a month? $50 a month?
Great question, and obviously comes up often. As I mentioned, it's a complementary tool, right? This is free of cost. You can start on day one, no cost included, right? It's not a trick. There's nothing
practically giving it away.
We are giving it away. The idea was, as you mentioned, it was developed and designed by NetApp experts to help our customers manage their FSx for ONTAP environments. And talking about those two services, we see how they make up those two pillars that we spoke about. So we've got FSX for ONTAP on the one hand, making up our well-architected building blocks, giving us that set of comprehensive features you were talking about before, right? Of cost and performance, security, protection, accessibility, mobility. And then we've got Workload Factory on the other side, giving us that well-architected orchestration tool, because again, it doesn't help to have all those features if you don't use them to the best of your abilities and leverage them to help optimize your environment. So that's what Workload Factory comes to do. It's a tool to help you plan, deploy, and operate your environments in a well-architected way. So this is a great time to have another poll. So we would love to hear from you now. What is your top priority when you are running your workloads in AWS?
I think we're going to see a roughly even split between the four, perhaps maybe an advantage for cost efficiency, because we all, especially nowadays, we all work in a budget.
I think a close second is going to be security. That's my guess.
Definitely. We have on the one hand, we need to satisfy our CSIO, on the other hand, our CFO.
Absolutely.
But high performance and especially high availability, since we also need to meet our SLAs. And high performance, well, depends, because some workloads are not necessarily high performance demanding. Leah, do we have the results? Yes, we do. And we have actually quite a majority for cost efficiency. Second is, of course, data protection and security. And last but not least, high performance, because, of course, some workloads require high performance. That's not the main concern, but everybody need to save a buck, as they say.
Definitely.
What's going on here? Okay, now let's see it in action, as we said. So we decided to take a few examples that we've seen from the field of customers, what they're looking to do, how they can do it, what they want to achieve, and how Workload Factory can help. So we'll start with a company that created a shared file repository on AWS to serve multiple departments within the organization. Now, first thing they want to do, they have an existing deployment. They want to make sure that after deploying it, that it aligns with best practices. Now, it sounds very simple, but we all know how sometimes in the transition between POC and production, we neglect to amend the environment to withstand the loads that come from POC to production. We don't necessarily apply high availability best practices, etc. So that's some example. And as we grow, in this example, more departments are added and require siloed storage components, volumes. We want to make sure that all the volumes are configured together, that aren't any human errors or some errors that were lagged from the automation. We want to make sure that there aren't any configuration drifts. So how do we do it with Workload Factory? Let's take a look. So we go to Workload Factory. We'll start this demo real quick. In Workload Factory, we have the well-architected score that our system go. We'll take a look at one of them. We get a total well-architected score. We've got configuration categories that align with the AWS well-architected model. Let's stop here for a minute. So I went to one of the configuration errors. Essentially, you've got the name, you've got the severity, you've got in addition to the severity, the configuration type, to what pillar it belongs. You've got, you can click View Recommendation to see what it is about, and I clicked View and Fix. Now here we can see exactly what we're talking about. It's called Automatic Capacity Management. What does that mean? This is something on the file system level. The way that an FSX for ONTAP file system works, as you all know, you've got your SSDs and the capacity tier. And once the SSD tier, as the performance tier is getting filled up, we might find ourselves running out of space in the file system, which could lead to errors, downtime, disruptions, and all the things we don't want to see. So Workload Factory comes with a nifty little feature called automatic capacity management. Essentially, you can set a threshold, in this example 80%, and set an incremental increase, in this case 10%. That means that the file system is scanned, usually typically once every few hours, if I'm not mistaken. And once you reach every 30 minutes, sorry, it is scanned once every 30 minutes. And if the threshold reaches 80%, Workload Factory will provision an extra 10% for your SSD tier. That means that you can grow without, on the one hand, without over provisioning, and on the other hand, without worrying about disruptions, because you know that each time you reach an 80% threshold, like this example, you will automatically increase your capacity by 10%.
And just a question, Danny, that some of our customers ask, will we get notified when this happens? Will it just happen behind the scenes, or will I know that this is happening?
Yeah, so observability and observability and transparency is very important. So of course there'll be an email notification. You can always configure it to an email box of your choice with the team shares. If you have a first year, etc., that monitors the environment 24/7.
Or even through SNS to whatever other
Exactly.
service you want to forward it to.
Yeah, if you, I don't know, want a Lambda function, I don't know, that as a jack in the box jump in your office every time there's an increase, whatever you want. We aim to please. So that's continue. So basically, that's what you do. You can read what will happen and click continue and wait for the success message that it has been done. And there we go.
I like that we started here with the well-architected dashboard, Danny, because I think this is if you said we aim to please, this is a crowd pleaser, right? This is one of our most loved feature in Workload Factory, most used because of exactly what you said before, right? Implementing the well-architected framework is not an easy job to do, and having this comprehensive list and a checklist that you can see, this is green, this is not, this is failed, this is needs to be improved, is something I personally like, and I know a lot of our customers do.
Great. So I think with that, we can continue to the next example.
Absolutely.
There we go. Okay, so here's the one of our favorite things today.
And I think one of our crowd's favorites.
Yeah,
as well,
exactly.
the
If we're
today.
talking about pleasing the crowd, we've got cost accountability. So we've got a storage team. The storage team is providing storage services for multiple SaaS environments. Let's say, for example, we've got a company that sells SaaS environment on the cloud. Each environment gets a volume from FSx for ONTAP, and we need to figure out a way how to bill customers, or at least send it to the account team, so the account team will have will have transparency on how much a customer environment costs. So we first of all we need to understand the storage costs as one of the components for our SaaS environment, and maybe you want to charge the hosted customers, whether they're internal or external, according to their usage. Now, since cost efficiency is quite a concern, I'm sure all of you know how the AWS detailed billing report looks like, a very, very long, very, very big spreadsheet, and it's very hard to find yourself in it and really figure out what are you paying for exactly. And here is where our cost explorer coming into play. There we go. Let's take a look. So we're in our FSx for ONTAP file system. We go to cost. And here, one of the fun things here, that allocation tags from our account are detected. So here we're going to create a report. We're going to mark the owner tag, and we are only going to focus on values that have the name Alice on them. So let's say the customer is, we have Alice, Bob, Charlie. Going to focus on the Alice environment. We already get results, and we're going to generate a report. Now, this report is going to consist of all the file systems that are under owner Alice. I'm going to choose one of them. And now I have a list of volumes. I'm going to choose one of the volumes and click apply. and we get a rough estimate of the monthly, not a rough estimate, a very accurate estimate that is based on the DBR. And the cost here in this example is $568 per month. And with that, we can take this estimate, give it to our account team, bill the whatever cost unit we have in our organization, um, and so on and so forth.
Sorry to stop
Go
you,
ahead.
but I know this is just a very powerful capability. Again, as you've mentioned, there's nowhere else you can really see to this
One thing I
granularity.
forgot to add is you see those 3 rows below, they are taken directly from the detailed billing report, so you can match this number, so you can understand where we took this number from, this 568. And this is how it looks like in the AWS DB. I've got SSD storage provision, throughput capacity, the amount of standard capacity, etc. Very hard to really pinpoint it to a volume level. Maybe you can to a file system, but it's very hard to do it on a volume level. And here in the report, you can do just that.
Right, exactly. I'll also mention at this point that if anyone has a question, please feel free to pop it in the Q&A section and we'll address it at the end of our session. But please feel free to write any of your questions during the session.
Write them now so you don't forget them later.
Yeah.
And let's continue with a poll.
Great
Take
to have
that
another
break.
poll number
Yeah.
3. How do you know nowadays if your infrastructure is not
An interesting
optimized?
one.
Hopefully, our audience will say they're aware, they're obviously monitoring on a daily basis, but we know, life is life and we do have some unexpected things happening. Hopefully it's not coming from users reporting issues, but it might be costs, it might be, I'm not entirely sure. We're realistic here.
Yeah, and sometimes, and as we might have guessed, monthly costs are unexpectedly high. We were paying more than we have expected and projected, and getting a lot of angry looks from our CFO team. Let's see the results. Do we have the results, Leah? Do we? Yes, we do. So I am
Good job, everyone.
very happy to report, that a great majority has the infrastructure continuously monitored. Way to go. That's the way to do it. I do see some people who answer that users are reporting issues. I hope that's in jest. And monthly costs are unexpectedly high, and I'm unsure it's optimized. Well, I hope we can help with those.
Absolutely. I just want to mention, and this is obviously not to scare anyone, but we do have customers that we work with that say, yeah, sure, we have everything monitored. And then we ask, but do you know when you have a latency issue? And they say, I'm actually not so sure about that. So
how does one discover latency issues? It's always, even if you discover them, if you know you have latency, how do you find the exact bottleneck in your very complicated delivery with many moving parts?
Right. So it is not by chance that I mentioned that example because we had a customer coming to us with just that issue. We had a company using FSx for ONTAP for high performance, latency sensitive workloads. Essentially, they're an EDA company, right? So high performance is very important to them. And they came to us and said, listen, we need to define latency SLAs. First and foremost, we need to define them. We need to write them down. It's not just a number in our head. We need it configured somewhere and visible. Then we need to be aware of any breach of latency. We want to be notified about it. We want to understand where it's coming from, what the cause is, and we want to be able to fix it and avoid it happening in the future. So this is how they do it today. In Workload Factory, we have an EDA section, which was initially developed with EDA customers in mind, but obviously it is very useful for all of our customers, and we have many customers using these capabilities. Inside is a latency tab, so you can review it from here. And in the latency tab, you can essentially configure a particular latency SLA. So here we already have one configured, but you can see there in the edit, you can either configure it or edit it or change it, whatever is needed. And it is divided by severity. So you can define separate thresholds for critical critical latency events or warning events, obviously different for read and write events. This can also be done at a volume level, or as you can see here, for your entire environment. And then hopefully no one here will be able to see any events, but you may then start seeing latency events popping up on this dashboard. So again, you see every event happening that is breaching the SLA, whether it is a write event, a read event, what the severity is, what volume it happened on, what the latency threshold you defined was, what the median latency, how high above the latency, the threshold it was, where it's coming from, and you can take it a step further and analyze it by using AI, where you will get the root cause for this, who the affected assets were, and how you can, what steps you can take to remediate this problem so that it won't happen again, hopefully, at least for this volume, right? But you can take these steps to make sure you avoid latency events in the future. And I have to say, this company we worked with had a major change in their environment. They really took the steps here from Workload Factory that were recommended to them, and they saw a big drop in their latency events. So it was really, really quite cool to see that.
Yeah, I think it's quite, at least from my experience, researching latency could be very frustrating. You don't know where to look, and even if you find the general area, pinpointing it, you have to sift through many logs with cryptic error messages. Can be very, very frustrating, and I think that really saves a lot of the hard labor and the grueling manual work.
Absolutely. And I think something we all do is we'll take that error message and we'll throw it in our favorite AI tool, right?
Yep.
But you'll have to pinpoint, you'll have to find all the relevant error messages, and here you just have it built in. So just having this extra layer of the AI analysis built into the to the tool, I think is very cool. I want to mention, you should already have in the chat here. So if you want to try out Workload Factory, you can do that today. There should be a link to try it out. You can also schedule a meeting with one of our experts who will be very happy to walk you through it. Obviously free of cost, as we mentioned, both Workload Factory, the meeting, anything. We'll be very happy to talk about your particular use case and how you can leverage Workload Factory. And on to our next topic.
Yeah, last but not least, security.
Yes, security. We love security. And I'll mention already now, before I forget, we have a whole other webinar on security. We can talk for hours about security, Danny and myself, and I'm sure everyone included. So if you're interested to hear more about it, feel free to write to us in the chat. Liat will be happy to send you one of our previous security recordings or invite you to a future one. But just in a nutshell, to mention this use case. So we've got a company using FSx for ONTAP to host sensitive data, as we all do, right? For all of us, our data is our most important asset at the end of the day. And in this case, management was concerned about ransomware protection readiness. They came to the storage admin and say, listen, we want to understand where we're standing. As we know, and as we expand about, obviously, in the security webinar, we've got many layers for security. And one of them is at the storage layer, which is one of our last sort of resorts to secure our data, is at the very storage layer. And in a nutshell, FSx for ONTAP has a built-in capability called ARP, Automatic Ransomware Protection. This is, again, a built-in free capability that is meant to protect your data against ransomware attack. What will happen is, once the system detects a ransomware attack, it will automatically create an immutable snapshot of your data, which means even if the attacker goes ahead and deletes all your data or encrypts it or moves it away, whatever, and then tries to ask you for money for it, right, as ransomware attackers do, you can sleep safely knowing your data is safe and you have time to deal with the issue, but you've got your data, right? It's an immutable copy that nobody can delete, including an admin.
So what's special about it? Once again, we talk a lot about it in the data security webinar, but the thing is, if you want to play with that feature, be very, very careful. Because when we mean you can't delete it for the specified period, you can't delete it. That means that even if somehow the attacker gets hold of your AWS credentials, God forbid, they can't delete the file system itself from the AWS console. It is that strong. And it took me a while till I found out why I can't delete my demo file system, and then it appeared that I had an immutable snapshot that couldn't be deleted. So
Right.
yeah,
So
this
it
is very serious. Yeah,
it goes to show that this actually works, right?
yeah.
It means you really are secure. And obviously, this snapshot will be saved just for a couple of days until you can sort of deal with the issue. And it will always only work when a ransomware attack is detected. So again, to our customer story, management is coming to the storage admin and saying, how are we doing on that front? How protected are we? How ready are we for a ransomware attack, which is not if it happens, it's when it happens, right? We know this is the situation we live in this world. And they wanted to see a thorough report for the management team about our ransomware protection on the data estate. So let's see how this customer did this in Workload Factory. They went to Ask Me. You've seen it in all our demos here in the main page. So it's time to see what it can do. It is a built-in AI assistant, which you can chat with, as all chatbots, AI chatbots can. So in this case, we are asking it, can you create an executive report for my management team regarding our readiness for ransomware? And what's great about Ask
What
Me?
differentiates Ask Me than other AI models where I might want to throw in my questions?
That's a great question because, again, all of us, I'm assuming, if we get that question, we'll go to our favorite AI tool, be it ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever, name dropping here, and I don't know, we'll export our list of all our volumes and we'll throw it in there and we'll give it a nice prompt and we'll say, create this, create that. The advantage of Ask Me is that it leverages the credentials it already has into your environment, right? If you're using a Workload Factory. So it has full visibility into your environment. It has all the insights it needs. And on the other hand, it has all the knowledge base of AWS and ONTAP, so it knows exactly what the steps are. It can give you remediation steps. It knows what you're looking for, and it also has these nice capabilities of creating a comprehensive report. So what it's showing us right now is, first of all, the findings. What do we have? What do we not have? What are we missing? What the recommended actions here? Let's stop it for a second. So it's giving recommended options. First of all, as we mentioned, enable ARP on those autonomous ransomware protection that I was explaining about beforehand, on those volumes that aren't enabled for, create maybe a snapshot policy if you don't have, right? The very, very basic, just create like local snapshots on a regular basis. And some additional, it might give some additional remediations according to your environment. But again, what's great about it is it's built into the tool. You can ask it any questions or insights. How ready are we? What is missing? Anything you didn't find in the workload, in the well-architected dashboard, for example, but just sort of any open question you want to ask.
Yeah, so I think once again, the biggest advantage is one of the typical issues with people using FSx for ONTAP is either they come from the ONTAP world and then they might need some help with AWS, or the AWS people who are new to ONTAP, and there they have their very own ONTAP professional services expert at the tip of their fingers.
Absolutely.
Help
And
them.
we see a lot of our
Yep.
customers using Ask Me to bridge that knowledge gap, right? And
Yeah, and save opening a support ticket.
absolutely.
Also, I think as the volume of support tickets went down because now people could get support they can get at least the lowest tiers of support assistance from Ask Me and get, find the right ONTAP CLI command, for example, or the specific feature that they're missing, or maybe they haven't known about, etc.
That's actually a great point. I just have a customer I spoke to, I think last month, who said exactly that. They said, I don't open support tickets anymore, or rarely. Anything I have, any error that comes up, I'll just throw it and Ask Me. I got to a point where I trust it more than I want to wait for the time till somebody from support gets back to me.
Music to our ears.
Yeah.
Should we carry on then?
Let's, please.
All right. Okay, so I think it's a good time to start summarizing. So when it comes to ongoing operations, we've got FSX for ONTAP, which is our well-architected building block for the storage layer. It gives us performance and capacity and capacity scalability, data protection capabilities, which we talked about, like local backups, backup and restore, disaster recovery. These we aren't dwell into in other webinars, so I'm not going to talk about them now. And we've got Workload Factory, which helps us with orchestration, drift detection, analysis, different quick fix buttons for remediation, other features, including the AI, etc., which, as we've mentioned, gives you a ONTAP professional services expert at the tips of your fingers. If you find this presentation interesting, you are going to get the deck and a recording. So here are some of the resources that we used for creating this deck. If you want to try Workload Factory yourself, do sign up for free right here. And now I think it's time to read some of your questions. And I do see we do have a few.
Excellent. And feel free to keep them coming if you want to write your questions now.
Okay, so let's start with an easy one. Is Workload Factory available in GovCloud?
It is. It is available in GovCloud. Please, we would love to help you set it up. You're very welcome to set up a meeting with one of our experts. You should have a link here in the chat. We would be happy to assist.
Oh, and we have a question here from earlier. Somebody who knows his ONTAP. Is ARP different from immutable snapshot? So ARP creates immutable snapshots. The mechanism, it's an ONTAP feature that detects entropy or heavy writes in volumes and suspicious activities like that. You have, let's say, a volume that is relatively cold, and all of a sudden you have lots of writes and lots of encryptions and suspicious activities like that.
Deleting a lot of
exactly, or deletions, then it will automatically flag it and create an immutable snapshot according to your definition. So you could define that you want the automatic immutable snapshots to be immutable for a month, for a week, up to you.
We've got a question. Does Workload Factory support the assessment and optimization of existing AWS native storage services as well, or is it focused on FSX for ONTAP? That's a great question. It is developed focused on FSX for NetApp ONTAP, right? That is its purpose. It is meant to help you manage and optimize your environments. I will mention that after giving credentials to your AWS account to discover your FSX for ONTAP environment, you can allow it to also discover your other storage solutions in the AWS and even make a comparison to see whether it is worth your while to move some of those into FSX for ONTAP in something called a TCO calculator. It is mentioned in one of our other webinars. So Frank, please feel free to reach out. We will be happy to send you more information on that and even walk you through that.
Okay. Okay, we have disabled. There's a question from a person. There's a question, even two questions. Let's start reading it. We have disabled the snapshots, the FSX for the snapshots on FSX from volume. How will it detect the ransomware? So I don't know if you've disabled ARP. Wait, let's read on. For example, if we are not snapshot policy as okay, if there's
ARP can be enabled even if you don't have a snapshot policy in place. I hope that answers your question, but even if you do not have a snapshot policy of regular snapshots being taken, you can still enable ARP and it will take an immutable snapshot if needed. Please feel free to write it to us again or reach out if we misunderstood your question. There's a follow-up question about our GovCloud. Indeed, AI capabilities in GovCloud can be completely opted out from, so nothing to worry about in that sense.
Okay, there's a continued question about GovCloud. If AIP capabilities are removed and off, I imagine so, because it must be.
Yeah.
You did? Okay.
It's absolutely we can disable all AI capabilities in GovCloud.
Oh, okay. So wait. Okay. Let's finish that. If I have immutable snapshots configured, does it make sense to configure ARP as well? So I don't know what exactly the policy is, but let's say you have one immutable snapshot created a day, for example, then you don't have to, because if your RPO is okay with, let's say, an attacker comes, make his damage, but you can take yesterday's immutable snapshot and it complied with your SLA. So I think you're good.
It
Depends on your SLA.
yeah, it
Yeah.
depends on your needs. If you need to have RTO of
Yeah. Once again,
of
depends on
minutes,
your return point objective, how much data you can afford to lose, and how your immutable snapshots are
right.
configured.
The main point here, I think, is that is only ARP only creates an immutable snapshot once a ransomware attack is detected. It is not like a policy that creates an immutable snapshot every so often. It will only be turned on once a ransomware is
And
detected.
another question, interesting. I see like somebody that has been using previous tools. Is Workload Factory agentless or agent-based? So I'm guessing you're referring to things like the NetApp console that had a VM running on AWS called an agent or on Azure, etc. No. Workload Factory uses something called Blink, which basically replaces the agent. It's a Lambda function that runs on your AWS account. That means you don't have to have a VM running in your account like previous solutions such as BlueXP, what is today the NetApp console,
Essentially,
Cloud Manager, if you remember that ancient history.
essentially, yes, Workload Factory is agentless. It is a SaaS tool, right? It's a
Okay, I see there's a continue. No, BlueXP is not Workload Factory. BlueXP is what was left of BlueXP is now called the NetApp console. Workload Factory is something else.
it is embedded within the
Yeah.
NetApp console though. So
Yes, if you have the NetApp consoles, you can use that. If you want some inside baseball, the teams that created the original BlueXP are the same teams that created Workload Factory, but it's not the same product.
right. Right. Any other questions? I hope we answered all the questions that came up. I just want to mention again, you should have here in the chat already a link both to try out Workload Factory today. Oh, I see we have one more question we did not answer. That's a great question that we really needed to address. That is, how do you start using Workload Factory? So thank you for that question, because we should have mentioned that before. Workload Factory has a gradual trust-based starting point. So you can start the planning part of Workload Factory. You can start using it to plan your environment without anything apart from logging in with your email. That's the first step. Once you would like to have more insights on your environment, you give it credentials into your AWS, essentially IAM credentials, very simple to set up. You even have some automations.
Important to start the first features you can give it read-only credentials. You don't have to trust Workload Factory to write in your account just yet.
Right. So you can start out with the read-only credentials, get some insights, get those recommendations. When you trust it even more and want to have Workload Factory make actions on your behalf, such as the quick fix buttons that Danny showed, like automatic capacity management, some other capabilities, you give it those additional capabilities, right? You see it's very visible and very comprehensive, exactly what capabilities you're allowing it, what permissions you're giving it. So thank you for that question. Any other questions? Okay, I think we did well with that.
Yeah.
Please feel free to schedule a meeting with any one of our experts. We would love to walk you through it, talk about your use case, if it makes sense to use Workload Factory and for what.
And with that, I think it's time to say thank you. Thank you, Iska, for joining me.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Liat, for producing yet another successful webinar that went quite smoothly. So thank you for that. And with that, thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for asking such good questions, such engaging questions, and answering our polls, making this session more interactive. And we all hope to see you in future webinars. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day.